Hey guys, Political Junkie 2414 here, and welcome back to my next video. So today I'm going to be covering my updated prediction for the 2024 House of Representatives elections. It's been a long time since I've made an updated prediction for these races. I think it's been since December of last year, but either way, we're less than 3 months out to Election Day. A lot has changed. Kamala Harris is now the presumptive Democratic nominee. Democrats seem to have gained momentum heading into the fall, and Democrats' prospects of flipping back the House remain pretty strong, and so we'll have to see. It's a very close and competitive race for control of the upper chamber or lower chamber of Congress, but yeah, I guess I'll just get right into it. So as you can see here, I filled out 164 safe Democratic seats and 177 safe Republican seats. So these are we're not going to spend any time talking about or even filling in, just because there's so much more to cover in a House election than what we see here. Now, there are some redistricting changes, like in Louisiana, where Democrats have added where the courts have ordered that a second majority black district be created, and so that has given Democrats an extra seat. While in North Carolina, the Republican-led legislature managed to draw out a couple of Democratic incumbents and put one previously competitive seat into even further toss-up territory. That's a tongue twister. So anyways, I guess we'll get right into it. I'm going to go, a lot of people with these House elections like to go west to east. I'm going to go east to west, at least from what I've heard. They like to go to east to west, or west to east. My God. So we're going to start up in Maine, where we have a Trump district. This district voted for Trump by, I want to say, 7 points in 2020. Yes, I believe that's right. I have a list of all of the partisan matchups or partisan results for these districts if they voted in the 2020 election or if they were in place during the 2020 election. But Democrats have an incumbent here, Jared Golden. He's one of the most conservative members of the House Democratic caucus, and he's bucked his party on several issues. I don't believe he voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, or he might have, but he expressed opposition to it early on, and he's willing to work with Republicans on several matters. If you see a vote where, one of the routine votes that House Republicans have put up in the last couple of years condemning President Biden's handling of the border, there are a number of Democrats who will be on board with signing, or who will be on board with voting yes on that roll call vote, and more often than not, Jared Golden is one of those exceptions that for Democrats that does vote to condemn Biden's handling of the border. So Golden's won here 3 times before pretty handily. I picked him to lose in 2022. Not a smart play on my part. He was running against the former Congressman Bruce Poliquin, who Golden had ousted in 2018. But he won pretty handily by 6 points, which he had won the same amount he'd won by in 2020. Again, he's facing a relatively decent challenge from, I believe the guy's name is Austin Federalt. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But Golden, I think, despite it being a presidential year, he's already proven that he can win in these polarized times. And I think that he wins by about 4 or 5 points. I really find it hard to believe I find it hard to believe that Democrats are going to lose this seat. I think they're going to hold it for, at least the next couple of years until Golden decides maybe he wants to run for a higher office, or maybe when polarization just gets too much for him or something happens that endangers his political career. But for now, he's doing pretty well, and I'd pick him to win. And it's close. It could go to Republicans, but I'm pretty confident in Golden. This is closer to likely than toss-up. Then we go down to New Hampshire, where we have 2 Democratic-leaning seats here. Both voted for Joe Biden by pretty decent amounts in 2020. The second district's a little bit more or less competitive. The incumbent here is Annie Kuster. She is retiring from this district, and so New Hampshire is one of the few states that still hasn't held its primaries. I believe Colin Van Ostern is running on the Democratic side, and Jake Sullivan's wife, I think. If you don't know who Jake Sullivan is, he's a national security advisor to President Biden. I believe his wife Maggie Goodlatte or something is running here. I think Van Alstern will win the Democratic primary and the general. Less drama in the first district, although it is a more competitive seat, but less primary drama. Chris Papas, the incumbent Democrat, won pretty handily in 2022, despite his own campaign thinking he was going to lose to Caroline Leavitt, the Republican nominee. But he won by 9 points. I think he'll win by a little bit less this time, but there is a competitive primary on the GOP side, which could wind up favoring Pappas even more. But either way, I find it pretty, I find him a pretty clear favorite to win at this very moment. But I think the margin could drop to like 7 or 8 points, maybe even 6. Then we go down to Connecticut. You can see here in New England, most of the competitive territory here is, or most of the territory here is very safe blue. Rhode Island also did have I will point out Rhode Island did have a competitive House election 2 years ago, but Seth Magaziner won that election against a popular Republican, and that popular Republican nominee decided not to run again, so Rhode Island, too, is going to be safe. Connecticut, we have one competitive district here. This was one of the closest ones 2 years ago. Jahana Hayes barely beat her Republican opponent, George Logan. It was by less than a point. This was one of my best districts in terms of predicting the 2022 elections for the House. I was pretty much dead on here. I predicted Hayes would win by a little bit less than a point, and that's exactly what we ended up getting. I think this time, with it being a presidential year and it being like a Biden plus 10 seat, I think you're going to see the margin increase a little bit. George Logan ran a very, very kind of a dark horse campaign. Not a lot of people expected this seat to be as close as it was. I think Hayes will do fairly well, but I mean, there's going to be a presidential election. There's a Senate race to turn on the ballot to turn up Democratic turnout. Connecticut really didn't have much except for the governor's race, which is pretty big, but Ned Lamont did not do super well in his governor races. So either way, I think Hayes is a pretty clear favorite to win. If she didn't lose in 2022, I don't think she's going to lose now. That's not necessarily it's not a perfect science. I think some districts in the House are going to get redder than they were in 2022. But I think that generally speaking, the national environment for House Democrats is going to be a little bit bluer in 2024 than it was in 2022. And if you look at the generic ballot, which typically is very, accurate, both 538 and Real Clear Politics have Democrats leading in the generic ballot, which is like the House popular vote. And so they're in a pretty good position. And Republicans won the popular vote by around 3 points 2 years ago, but barely won the House. And that was because they did better in more populated states like New York and California. Anyways, I'm rambling. And speaking of New York, we're here. We have a lot of competitive territory here. I'm going to fill out these two districts on Long Island, New York 2, New York 1. Nick LaLota and Andrew Garbarino, I expect them to pretty easily win their races. You can make an argument for Garbarino's seat being safe. It was safe 2 years ago, but this is one of the states that's gotten a little bit of redistricting, and I don't expect Republicans to have as good of a statewide environment in New York in 2024 as they did in 2022. And so I think Garbarino wins by, he won by like 20 points last time. I'd say he wins by like 12. LaLota's he's vulnerable. He's a House freshman. And he won his seat pretty handily, by, like 11 points. This used to be Lee Zeldin's district. Zeldin was the 2022 nominee for governor for the Republicans, and he was credited with really helping Republicans out in New York because he ran a very strong campaign against Kathy Hochul. But LaLota's got a popular challenger, and I think the guy's name is John Avalon, who's he was a former CNN news anchor, I believe. I go back and forth between this being lean and likely red, but I think it's pretty clear that LaLota is favored for a second term. I think this district voted for it got redder in redistricting. It voted for Trump by about 2 points, and I think LaLota is a pretty clear favorite. And then we go over to New York 3, another seat on Long Island. This used to be George Santos's district. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he was a representative, you know, whose name was dogged, you know, and surrounded in scandal. He was expelled from the House last year, and Democrats won the special election to replace him. The former congressman for this district before Santos, Tom Suozzi, won the special election by a pretty comfortable margin. This is a Biden plus 8 seat, I believe, or it might have got a bluer. It's 11. It's Biden plus 11, but the one that Suozzi ran in the special election in February was still the one that was used for the 2022 map, and that was that was a pretty blue result for Democrats, especially since the fact that they were able to even meet their 2020 numbers on Long Island is remarkable, considering how much ground they lost here 2 years ago. Then again, that could be specifically tailored to this district, but honestly, this is a super blue district now. I mean, not impossible for Republicans to win, but they're not really targeting it. They've already lost it. They accept it. They have other ways to the House majority. Another Democratic leaning seat that voted for Biden in 2020 but elected a Republican 2 years ago is New York's 4th, where Anthony D'Esposito is running for re-election. This district is, I believe, the bluest in the country. Did I say New York's 14th district? I meant New York's 4th. I don't know if I said that. But either way, this district voted for Joe Biden by almost 15 points. And it elected D'Esposito narrowly, which makes him the House Republican in the number one House Republican in the most the seat that voted for Biden by the most in 2020. So out of all the Biden Republicans, or all the Republicans in Biden seats, D'Esposito's in the bluest territory. Laura Gillen, who ran against D'Esposito 2 years ago, is back for a rematch, and I think that she's going to win this time. I think that she's got the national environment on her side. I don't think it's going to be a red wave in New York in 2024, but it is going to still be close. I think D'Esposito has a chance to win, but I really think that he's in trouble because it's just such a blue environment. Even if this district does, swing against Kamala Harris, which I think is very possible and even likely, Trump would have to do a lot better, to the point where D'Esposito could even outrun Trump by enough to win this district. Then we go to New York 11. This one was also safe in 2022. This is Staten Island territory. It's a Trump plus 11 seat. Nicole Malliotakis won it pretty handily 2 years ago. I expect her to win it pretty handily again, but I do think it could be a little bit closer, maybe a 10 to 12 point victory, but it could also still remain safe. Then we go up to the upstate region of New York. We go to Westchester, where incumbent Republican Mike Lawler is running for re-election in this Biden plus 10 seat. He unseated the then chair of the DCCC, Sean Patrick Maloney. But Democrats have gotten the former representative for this seat, Mondaire Jones, to come back and run against Lawler. And I think he's going to win this time. He got forced out of there because of redistricting in 2022 and because Maloney didn't want to run for the 18th district, which looks very similar to this one right above Lawler's. But Jones, I think, has a connection to this district, and I think that in a presidential year, Lawler's a really good candidate, but he won very, very narrowly in 2022, and that was in the best of circumstances for New York Republicans. I find it kind of hard to believe that he'll hold on. It's going to be close. He could definitely do it. I would absolutely not count him out, but I think that he faces a pretty uphill climb this year. And I will note I was wrong about this district in 2022, which a lot of people were wrong about this one 2 years ago. Then we go to New York 18. This district has Pat Ryan as its representative. He is a House freshman. He won a special election back in 2022. Then in the 19th district, and then he ran in this 18th district. He was the only House Democrat in New York to win in a competitive seat in 2022, and he won very narrowly. I think that speaks to his ability, his electoral success. He won that special election also in a very big upset against GOP Representative Mark Molinaro, or now GOP Representative Molinaro. And there's been a lot of controversy here about about Ryan's GOP opponent here and her record on certain issues. Or I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I'll leave you to be the judge of that. I won't say too much because this video is already getting really long. But yeah, I think Ryan wins by 4 to 5 points. Then we go to New York's 19th district. Mark Molinaro is running again. He won by less than 2 points in this Biden plus 4.5 district. Josh Riley, the Democrat who ran against him 2 years ago, is running again. I think he wins this time. New York redistricting made this seat, I think, a little bit better for Molinaro, but really it wasn't that big of a change. I think that Molinaro, honestly, is going to win this district. And then we go up to Syracuse with New York's 22nd district. This seat voted for this is where Brandon Williams is, and he's got a strong challenger in John Mannion. He won very narrow. Williams won very narrowly 2 years ago. I think his district has gotten like 4 points bluer in redistricting in New York. I think it was like Biden plus 8 initially. Now it's Biden plus 11. So I think Williams loses by a couple of points. All right, I'm going to try to speed this up. So New Jersey, we got 2 likely Democratic seats. Josh Gottheimer in the 5th, Andy Kim's current seat in the the 3rd. In Southwest Jersey, or Southern New Jersey, but either way, excuse me, I think Kim is actually retiring to run for Senate, and so the seat is open, so it's an opportunity for Republicans to make it a little bit closer, but it's pretty solidly Democratic, and Herb Conaway is a pretty good candidate for the Democrats. So, yeah, that's how I would rate the district right now. The most competitive one here is New Jersey's 7th, where we have Republican Tom Keene running for re-election. He won by less than expected against Democratic candidate Tom Malinowski in 2022. And that was a rematch of their race in 2020 when Malinowski almost lost to Keene. But this seat got like 4 points redder in redistricting in 2022. It went from like Biden plus 10 to Biden plus 4. And so Keene should have really won by a lot more. Instead, he only improved by like 3 or 4 points. This is a very suburban district. Keene's a very popular name in New Jersey. Of course, Tom Keene's dad was governor. I think, though, that the Democrats' candidate, Sue Altman, is really I think that she's going to beat Keene pretty handily here. Or not handily at all, actually. I think that she's going to beat Keene very narrowly in this district. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I know that this has taken a while, but I think that Altman is a very narrow favorite here. Keene can still win, but this is a change from my last prediction where I had Democrats losing this seat still. But I could really see this one going either way, so we'll have to wait and see. But right now I'm favoring Altman. We go to Pennsylvania. We have a couple competitive ones here. Pennsylvania's first. This is a very competitive seat on paper, Biden plus 4.5, but Brian Fitzpatrick's a very strong incumbent, and he's proven that in his elections, in several of his elections. So we're going to give him a likely Republican, make his seat likely Republican. Then we go up to the Lehigh Valley area. Susan Wild is running for re-election. She really shocked everyone when she held on in this very narrow Biden seat. It voted for Biden by like 0.6%. And so I think that now I think this Wild is going to narrowly hold on in Pennsylvania. Democrats have a lot of momentum. This state is going to be very important on the presidential level. And while it's not as competitive on the Senate level, Bob Casey is running again, and he's going to really excite Democratic turnout. And I think in a similar style to Josh Shapiro, he could, he could boost down ballot Democrats. Casey could boost down ballot Democrats like Shapiro did. Democrats had a very good result in Pennsylvania 2 years ago. I think they'll get a pretty similar result again, but I do think some of these districts are going to get redder. So I think Wild loses a little bit of ground, but still wins pretty handily in this district. We go up to the 8th. This includes Lackawanna County. This is the Scranton area of Pennsylvania. Matt Cartwright's the incumbent Democrat, but he's he's one of the few House Democrats in a seat that would have voted for Trump 4 years ago. It's a Trump plus free seat. But Cartwright, overperformed John Fetterman, which is not something that any of these other House Democrats can say. And he won he's won very narrow but very solid victories over the last 6 years. And I think that he's going to do it again. Republicans, I think, have their best shot to oust him this time around. Cartwright's more vulnerable than he's ever been, but I really do think that he's going to narrowly hold on again, but he could very well lose. And if Republicans win the House, I think Cartwright's district could very well be one of those seats that helps give them the majority. Yeah. And then we go down to Pennsylvania's 10th district, where we have Scott Perry running for re-election. He's one of the few Freedom Caucus members who's in a surprisingly competitive seat. It voted for Trump by 4 points, but this has the Harrisburg area and its surrounding suburbs, and that's a pretty left-trending area in Pennsylvania. Perry, Democrats have tried to knock him off a couple of times before. In 2022, they didn't really put in any effort. They didn't really try, and their nominee came within 8 points of beating Perry. And so this time they're going to make a more concerted effort. But that being said, I still think that Perry wins Perry's a clear favorite right now, but this race could get close, and this could be an upset for Democrats. But if things get really bad in Pennsylvania, but nonetheless, I expect Perry to win. He has a remarkable amount of electoral success for a Freedom Caucus aligned candidate in a swing seat. Our final seat in Pennsylvania is Chris Delugio's seat in the Pittsburgh area. He won by around 6 points in 2022 in this open seat. It voted for Biden by about 6 points. I think Delugio actually won by 7. I think he wins by a little bit less this time. He wins by maybe 4 points, but I think, again, like Perry, he's a pretty clear favorite. These are very competitive seats, but they have clear favorites, whereas, the ones in Northeast Pennsylvania are the more competitive ones. But still, all of them are worth watching. Then we go down to Maryland. I go back and forth on whether Andy Harris's seat is likely or safe, but I'm going to keep it as safe right now. It's close enough to be, it voted for Trump by 14 points last time. I think Harris will win it pretty comfortably. Either way, he's going to win. There's no chance of Democrats winning this seat. Then we go to Maryland 6. David Trone is the incumbent. He ran for Senate and lost to Angela Alsobrooks in the primary. April McLean Delaney, the wife of former Congressman John Delaney, who represented this seat, won the Democratic nomination, and I think Neil Parrott, the GOP nominee against Trone 2 years ago, won the Republican nomination. So I think Delaney wins this seat. It's Biden plus 10, I want to say. Larry Hogan could definitely make Maryland's House seats a little bit, make the seat a little bit more competitive, but overall, he's not really winning that great of support. In the Senate race, he's doing very well for a Republican, but Hogan's being held back by the fact that he's running in a race that's being nationalized, and so I think Maryland 6 is closer than it was 2 years ago, but still votes Democratic. Could be lean, but we'll have to wait and see how well Hogan performs on Election Day. Virginia's first. Rob Whitman will win pretty handily. This is a Trump plus 4 seat. Actually, it's not that close. It's 7. Yeah, it voted for Trump by pretty strong amount. It was Trump plus 6, yeah. But Whitman's a very strong incumbent. He won by 13 points last year. He'll be fine. We have a couple open seats up here in Northern Virginia. Jennifer Wexton decided to retire in the 10th district. This could be safe, honestly, but Suhas Subramaniam, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But he is the Democratic nominee, and I think Wexton had some electoral vulnerabilities, not related to her medical condition, but in terms of just her electability, she wasn't as good as some of her Democrats in this seat. And she had a surprisingly close race in 2022 for someone running in this Biden plus 19 district. But I think, I'm going to keep it likely, but it will go up from the point. It will go up from Wexton's margin in 2022. I'm pretty confident in that. Virginia 7th. This is another open seat. It's Biden plus 7, but Abigail Spanberger is retiring. She won a very strong victory in 2022. Pretty comfortable. She won by 5 points in a race that was very nationalized. But she's going to run for governor next year in 2025. Eugene Vindman is running on the Democratic side. Derek Anderson's the Republican nominee. I think Vindman holds on to this. He's a pretty popular candidate. He's from his brother, I believe, is the guy who testified in Trump's first impeachment trial. So he's got a lot of brand recognition with the Democratic, with House Democrats and the Democratic Party as a whole. I think he's pretty, he'll excite turnout, and I think he'll win, by 4-ish points. Virginia's 2nd. This one flipped to Republicans back in 2022. It voted for Biden by about 2 points. Jen Kiggins, though, is running for re-election here, and Democrats, despite this usually being a bellwether seat, really have been more focused on flipping seats in California and New York. Democrats did get Missy Cotter Smazzle to win or to run for this seat. I am conflicted if this is a leaner tilt race. I'm gonna put it as lean just because it's Kiggins really has not gotten as much attention in this seat as you might think for a seat as close as this. This is a Hampton Roads area seat, very competitive, very swingy. It voted for Biden, in 2020, but voted for Trump in 2016. But I think Kiggins wins by around 2 points right now, and that's where I'd put it. North Carolina, we have a lot of seats that were gerrymandered here and kicked out Democratic incumbents, and free formerly Democratic seats or seats that were held by Democrats have now been made much redder, and so those incumbents have retired. North Carolina's 11. This one's going to go to Chuck Edwards very comfortably, but I think that based on the margin and the partisan makeup of this district, it's got Asheville that's a little bit closer. It's a Trump plus 11 seat, so I think Edwards wins by less than 15, but he's still a very clear favorite here, and I would be very shocked if Democrats won this seat. North Carolina's one, though. This is our first district. This is the really competitive one. This was like a Biden plus 8 seat 2 years ago, but it was very competitive on, if you look back at the Senate election results, and Don Davis won this seat, this majority black seat by around 5 points in 2022. He did slightly better. He did pretty clearly better than Sherry Beasley in this district. And Beasley won a very strong campaign, but this seat is so much redder now, and it's getting, it's trending very strongly. Republicans were able to block Sandy Smith, who ran against Davis 2 years ago, from running again, and they got Lori Buck out as the GOP nominee. I think she wins, honestly. I think that this is one of those competitive seats where Democrats are going to lose one of their incumbents. Again, this is not the only flip for the Republicans on the map. I want to make that clear. But this is very much a race that I previously thought was in Democrats' favor that is no longer in their favor because of redistricting. I can't remember how I had it back in December, but I'm pretty sure I had it as blue, but my mind has changed since then. Tennessee's 5th. Andy Ogles is going to win pretty comfortably here. Republicans in 2022 in redistricting broke up Nashville, and so they forced out Jim Cooper from this seat, and so Ogles won the seat by around 13, 14 points. He's going to win by a similar margin this time around, but it's not quite safe. But it's not going to be by a safe margin. South Carolina's 1st. There was an attempt to redraw the seat, but Nancy Mace's seat, Nancy Mace got lucky, and the Supreme Court, I believe, allowed this map to stay in place, and it's a Trump plus 7 seat, I want to say, or 8 seat, but Mace won by 13, 14 points in 2022. I think she'll win by a pretty strong margin this time, but it won't be over 15. Then we get down into Georgia. Georgia, another state that's gotten a lot of redistricting, but really the main competitive seat here is the same. It's Georgia's 2nd with Sanford Bishop. This is another right-trending, traditionally rural, traditionally Democratic seat in the South, and it has had Sanford Bishop as its representative for over 3 decades. I think as long as he runs, his margins might start to decrease, due to the seat having, starting to get more and more white and more conservative over time, as a lot of African American voters move into the Atlanta metro area and out of state. I think that this seat is going to be very, very good for Democrats, and I don't think the Republicans are seriously contesting it. They didn't really even try to make too much of a play for it in 2022, but they did have, I do think Politico rated it as lean Dem. Anyways, Alabama, another state in the South where we've had redistricting, and not to mention actual litigation and changes, or not litigation, but actual changes in the map. The Supreme Court knocked down the 2022 House map here and added in a second majority black district. I believe the Democrat's name is Shamari Figures, but he's going to win the seat. It's like Biden plus 12, unless black turnout just drops in 2024, which I highly doubt, especially with Democrats nominating Kamala Harris, a black woman, to be their VP or to be their presidential nominee. I think that Alabama, unless there's some extreme red wave, which I really don't think will happen, just like there won't be any blue wave, Alabama's second is going blue in a normal year, and I think this will be a pretty divided but normal election year. Then we go down to Florida. We have a couple of likely red seats here. Florida's 27th. Maria Salazar won by like 15 points in 2022, but the margin I think will decrease. It's a very narrow Trump seat, but that goes to show just how well Republicans did here in Florida 2 years ago. But they're going to win it pretty comfortably. Florida's 7th, another safe seat in 2022 for Republicans. Corey Mills, I think, will win by a little bit less this time. It's a Trump plus 6 seat, I want to say. Yes, Trump plus 5.5. So that's going to be pretty solid for Republicans, but it will shift towards Democrats just because Florida's not. It has, again, it's kind of it's kind of like New York in 2022. Another state where there was a big red wave in the House elections and just generally in the national results. Now that it's a presidential year, I think things will even things out a little, which we'll see in states like Michigan, where kind of the opposite effect will hold true. But either way, Florida's 15th, Laura Lee will win here. This is a Trump plus 3 district, but Lee is very popular and won by a pretty comfortable amount 2 years ago. And then we'll get into the likely Democratic seats. Darren Soto's likely to win pretty comfortably here. It's a Biden plus 17 seat. He won by like 8 in 2022. He'll win by a little bit more this time. I think he'll win by double digits. Jared Moskowitz down in Miami he had a very close race 2 years ago. But he's a pretty strong candidate electorally speaking. He overperformed Val Demings and Charlie Crist's performances in the Senate and governor races in this district, respectively. And I think that he's, this is another seat the Republicans tried to get last minute in 2022, but really could not get. They had a good result here, but now that there's a Democratic incumbent, I think Republicans, since their overestimations of a red wave 2 years ago, have kind of, cut back on, their huge aspirations. I think that they're now looking to the really competitive seats in the ones and thinking, okay, where's this, seat where we can really target Democrats and not waste our money here. And I think in Florida's 23rd, it could still be close. It's still going to be like single digits, but I think Moskowitz increases his margin to above 5 points. Florida's 13th, though, is interesting because in all of these other House seats, you saw Republicans do significantly better in their House elections compared to Trump's 2020 results in these districts. But in Florida's 13th, Anna Paulina Luna only did about a point better. Trump won this seat by like 7. Paulina Luna won by 8. And so that shows that she's not that strong of a candidate if she was only able to get a 1-point boost from this massive red wave that devoured Florida, and like shifted seats by like 5-10 points to the right, by 10 to 15 points to the right. And so if she only did 1 point better, 2 years ago, I think she's honestly in a closer race than we think. I think she'll win by like 4-ish points. I'd be surprised if Democrats win this, but Tampa's been has been a part of the state where they're not completely collapsing in. It's one of their better areas of the state, but I still think that I would still be surprised if they lose it. Texas, we have a couple of competitive seats here. I think we're going to go up to the Midwest in just a minute, but Texas, we have a couple seats here in the Rio Grande Valley. Texas is 15, flipped to Republicans back in 2022. Monica De La Cruz won this Trump plus free seat, I want to say, by a pretty comfortable margin. She's up against the same Democratic nominee as she was 2 years ago, and she's going to win it pretty comfortably. Oh, and I forgot about Louisiana. This is a safe Democratic seat, but the incumbent Republican Garrett Graves got drawn out here in redistricting, and national, House Republicans at the national level encouraged him not to run against one of the other Republican incumbents. So, this seat could have been likely if it was Graves, because he's a very strong candidate, but it's Biden plus 20. He wouldn't have won it, and he's decided, I think he realized that, and so he decided not to run. Either way, getting back to Texas, the 28th, I would have, I had this as likely D for a long time, but then Henry Cuellar got indicted back in May, and I think, that was after Democrats had already put him up as the nominee, and I think he was already going to have a closer race this time around just due to trends in this district favoring Republicans, but, he didn't even face a primary challenge this year, after, surviving, 2 primary challenges in a row in 2020 and 2022. So, Cuellar, I think, is in a little bit of trouble. He didn't face any primary opposition, but this scandal definitely does not help him. So I think he's the narrow favorite, but I would not be surprised if this was an upset for the GOP. And then we have the 34th. This is a very blue district. This is like Biden plus 15, I want to say. But it voted for Vicente Gonzalez by by like 8 points in 2022, which was which I did predict him to win, but that was more than I expected him to win. And Myra Flores, the former Republican incumbent that was running here 2 years ago, is running again. It was an incumbent on incumbent battle because Gonzalez was originally from this district, but redistricting caused him to move over here, yada yada. Either way, Gonzalez, I think, will beat Flores in a rematch of their 2022 race, but I think it will be a little bit closer. Let's go over to the Midwest now. So Ohio's 7th. This one's interesting. It's like a Trump plus 10 district. Max Miller's the incumbent Republican, but he's facing a Democratic challenge and a challenge from independent candidate and former Congressman Dennis Kucinich. So he's running against Miller. So this seat could be a little bit closer than expected, but I still expect it to vote Republican. But still, Kucinich could definitely steal away some Republican votes from Miller, or some independent voters from Miller. Then we go down to Ohio's 1st. Greg Landsman beat Steve Chabot 2 years ago in this Biden plus 5 seat, or Biden plus 8 seat. He won by Landsman won by 6 points, and I think that he's going to win by a little bit more this time. And I think it's a pretty solid district for Democrats. I don't think Republicans are really contesting it anymore. But then we have the 2 really competitive seats here in Ohio's 9th and 13th. We'll start with the 9th. Republicans were able to convince J.R. Majewski, who was the GOP nominee 2 years ago, to drop out of the Republican primary, and then they got Derek Marin to defeat Craig Riedel in the primary. So they've done a good job with their strategy to defeat Marcy Copter, who is another Democrat in a Trump area seat. But Copter has a long history of overperforming traditional Democratic results in this district. She's been in the House a very long time, been in competitive districts, safe blue districts, and she's back in a competitive district again. But she won by 13 points last time in this district, which is Trump plus free, and I think she's going to win very comfortably, or win very narrowly compared to 2022. But I'd say she wins by 4 to 5 points, a clear victory, but a narrow one. So yeah. Ohio's in 13th. This has Amelia Sykes, another freshman House Democrat in this seat, and she's vulnerable, but and Republicans likewise have gotten a better candidate than they did 2 years ago, but it's Biden plus 3. I think this seat is a little bit bluer than some people think. And Sherrod Brown being on the ticket in Ohio, I think will help Democrats down ballot, and maybe even Kamala Harris in the House race. Even if Brown loses, I think that he really does help Democrats here in the House elections. And so I think Sykes will win very narrowly. She won by like 6 points 2 years ago. I think it'll be a lot closer. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Indiana's first. This seat has Frank Mervyn. He is in like a Biden plus 9 or 8 district. He won by a lot in 2020, which was under a very similar map, but he only won, by like 5 points 2 years ago, as I just said. I'm kind of repeating myself here. I think he's in for a little bit closer of a race this time. This seat is getting more Republican as the years go on, and I think it will flip to Republicans maybe in 2026 or 2028. But for now, I think Mervyn is the favorite in this district. I think it is still a narrowly leaning Democratic seat. Then we go over to Illinois. Sean Casten and Lauren Underwood, very clear favorites in these 2 seats. But the real competitive one here in Illinois is the 17th. This is a Biden plus 8 seat. It voted for Eric Sorensen, the incumbent Democrat, by, I want to say 4 points in 2022. And this was this was one of House Republicans' top pickup opportunities 2 years ago, and they dropped the ball. But that being said, they still have a really good chance to win it this time around. I would still put it in the lean Democratic column, but I think that this seat, like Indiana's first, does get a little bit closer than it was 2 years ago. I think that Republicans will improve here in their margin against the Democrats, but Sorensen I still think is the favorite. Michigan, I said that like Florida and New York in 2022, Michigan is going to move a little bit to the middle, but I think it's going to get better for Republicans because Democrats really had a really good result here in 2022. What am I saying? It was a bad result. Bill Huizenga is going to win by, maybe double digits this time around. This is a Trump plus, free seat, so it is traditionally competitive, but I think he's a pretty clear favorite to win. There has been a lot of talk about this race, and for good reason. Michigan's third. Hillary Scholten, another Democratic freshman in the House, won this seat. This seat is a traditionally Republican seat in the Grand Rapids region, but the incumbent representative, Peter Meyer, who voted to impeach Trump, lost his Republican primary to John Gibbs, and Gibbs lost to Scholten 2 years ago, and now Republicans have national Republicans are not really contesting the seat that much anymore. I think Scholten, she won by like 13 points 2 years ago, and this is a Biden plus 9 seat. It's very left trending. Western Michigan is very left trending, this Grand Rapids region. But I think Scholten wins by maybe a similar amount, maybe a little bit less, but the ability of this district to trend blue is just insane to me, and so we'll have to wait and see, but very, very blue. Then we go to Michigan's 10th. John James won very narrowly 2 years ago against Karl Marlinga. He's up against the same guy again. It was a Trump plus 1 seat, and the fact that James won, that race should not have been as close as it was because Marlinga was not funded or received any assistance by the DCCC, and he was consistently down in the polls. People thought this was a likely R race. I thought it was a lean R race, and it barely voted for James. I think it'll be close. It'll be better for James this time, though, because as I said, I think Republicans are going to do better here in Michigan. And one of the reasons why I think they're going to do better in Michigan is because they have the 7th and 8th districts, which are the most competitive in the state. They do not have the Democratic incumbents running. Again, Elisa Slotkin is running for Senate. She has abandoned her Lansing-based seat to run for Senate, and that's going to be a very close race. But this is going to be a very close race, too. This was seat voted for Biden by like half a point. Curtis Hurdle, I think, is the Democratic nominee. He's going up against Tom Barrett in this seat. I think he's going to win very narrowly, but it's going to be a lot closer without Slotkin, because she was really a gem of a candidate for this seat. And while she's not the best Democrat to run, she hasn't run statewide before, but I think that she has enough of a blueprint to run on where she is a pretty good candidate to run for the Senate seat. But that's besides the point. So I think Barrett narrowly loses again, but Hurdle not being the incumbent, we get a very similar 2020 map to 2020 in this seat. Then Michigan's 8th. This is a very right-trending seat. Dan Kildee has represented this seat for 12 years. He's retiring. He won by 10 points in 2022. Paul Junge, the former Republican nominee against Kildee 2 years ago, is running again. Democrats nominated Kristen McDonald-Rivette to win this seat. I think that she's going to win, but I would not be surprised if this was a GOP pickup. I think that this seat has a better chance of going red than Michigan's 7th, despite it being overall, in terms of Biden margin, a bluer seat, just because I think Kildee was a really good candidate for winning over working class voters. His uncle was also a representative for this seat, but I think Kildee's pretty clear. I think that Kildee's seat will remain in Democratic hands. Wisconsin's first. Brian Steele is going up against former Democratic Congressman Peter Barca, or Barca. I'm not sure how you say it, but it's a very it's like a Trump plus free seat. I don't really think it's going to be super competitive, but the fact that you have a former Democratic representative running here gives a little bit, it's a little bit more of an opportunity for Democrats to win than if they did not have any candidate. Wisconsin's third. They held the primaries here in Wisconsin just like a week ago, and Rebecca Cook, who is aligned with the Blue Dog caucus, or the Blue Dogs in the House Democratic Caucus, which includes members like Golden and Marie Glusem-Cramp Perez and Mary Peltola, yada yada yada. I think Rebecca Cook's a very good candidate to take on Derek Van Orden, who's the incumbent Republican here, but Van Orden is going to win this seat. It's like Trump plus 5. I would be surprised if he lost it. He was supposed to win it by a lot more 2 years ago. I will say this. I expected him to win it by double digits, but he only won it by like 3. But I think that he's going to lose it, or he's going to win re-election again. Minnesota's second. Angie Craig. Actually, we'll do Minnesota's first here. This seat's very close to being safe. Red. It's a Trump plus 10 district, but and Brad Finstad's not the best incumbent, but I think he'll win by just a little bit less than 15. I think he'll win by 13, 14. It's not in the range of likely where it's like 14.6, where I might as well put it as safe. So I will keep it as likely. And getting back to Minnesota's second, Angie Craig. This is the real competitive seat in Minnesota. Angie Craig's running again. Republicans nominated Joe Terab, or maybe it was some other guy, but either way, they were able to avoid a primary challenge here, although the other candidate dropped out so late that they had 2 names on the Republican primary ballot. But either way, Minnesota's second. This is a Biden plus like 6 seat. Craig has had a long history of free wins over the last 6 years. I think that she's a pretty clear favorite to win once again. She's a very strong candidate, and she knows how to win. Then we go to Iowa. Iowa's second and first, likely red seats. Iowa's first has gotten a little bit of attention for potentially being closer. Marinette Miller Meeks, I think, is a little bit vulnerable. This could be a lean seat in a really good night for Democrats, but I'm gonna keep it as likely red because Iowa's just so right trending, and it's like Trump plus 3, but Miller Meeks won by 7 in 2022. So yeah. Then Iowa's third. Zach Nunn is running for re-election. He is facing against Lanham Bacum, who's the Democratic, or Bacum. I don't know why I'm so bad with names today, but I've never heard his name pronounced. Either way, Democrats are running him for this Iowa seat, and it's going to be a close race. But I think that Nunn is going to, now that he's the incumbent, he's going to win this seat by a little bit more. He's one of House Republicans' best recruits for these suburban seats. This has a lot of suburbs of Des Moines in it. This district, I mean. But none, I think he won a closer than expected victory 2 years ago. I think he's going to win by like 2 or 3 points this time around. But, not impossible to see a Democratic upset, but very unlikely. I would not, pretty unlikely, still a competitive seat. But very clearly leaning towards the Republicans. Nebraska, Don Bacon's seat, very, very close. I had this as a Democratic leaning, or, a Democratic gain, I think, in my last prediction. Tony Vargas is a very good candidate, but Bacon, I think, is just not at the point where he's going to lose. He had a much closer result in 2022 than he should have. This is another seat where I really, pride myself on my prediction. One of my best seats. But Nebraska, too, I think that Bacon's going to narrowly beat Vargas again. It's a Biden plus 6 seat or Biden plus 7 seat, I think. But, Bacon only did a little bit better than the Republican nominee for governor in 2022 did in this district. So that's concerning. But I think that he can, as long as Democrats don't win this seat by like 10, I think he'll be okay. Although I think that he could lose, in a tip if Biden or Harris wins the seat by like 7, but he could also win. I think it's a coin flip right now. So either way, very close race. I'm sorry, my voice is getting all drowned out. I'm dehydrated. So sorry if you can't really understand me very well. Kansas, we have 2 competitive seats. The second, Jake LaTurner, is retiring, but this is like a Trump plus 14 seat, I want to say. And a former Democratic Congresswoman, Nancy Boyda, is coming back to run for this seat. And Derek Schmidt, the former Republican nominee for governor in 2022, won the GOP primary. And I think Schmidt's a pretty clear favorite to win the general, but because Democrats have another former former member running for this seat, I think that it's a pretty good sign. It's conducive to a closer race, potentially in the single digit column. Sharice Davids in 2022. Oh, whoopsie. Sharice Davids in 2022 won this Biden plus 4.5 seat, Kansas's 3rd district, by around like 5 or. This is a Biden plus 5 seat. Sharice Davids won by like 12, I want to say. So this was a very good result for Democrats in Kansas. And you can argue Laura Kelly had a very strong victory in the governor's race, but at the same time, governor races are different than House races, but there was definitely a bit of a correlation between that strong performance and, if you look at other states like New York and Florida and Michigan, there were definitely down ballot effects. But either way, Davids is a very strong candidate. I expect her to win by double digits again this time. Republicans are not really contesting her seat. So yeah, that's where I'd put it. I'd put it in, the low double digit column. Then we have Missouri's 2nd district, Ann Wagner, pretty clear favorite to win. This is a Trump plus 8 seat. She won it by 11 2 years ago. Closer than expected. A lot of people said that this was a safe Republican seat, but Democrats are not really targeting her, and for good reason. I don't really think that she's, in serious danger of losing. All right, now we're getting really out to the west, so we're going to start with Colorado here. We're going to start in Lauren Boebert's district, or former district. She's now running in the 4th. Jeff Hurd won the GOP primary against Ron Hanks, which is a good move, which was good for the GOP because they got a more electable candidate. Adam Frisch, the Democrat who ran against Boebert 2 years ago, is running again, and he's going to make this seat very close. Colorado does have like an abortion referendum on the ballot, which is going to excite Democratic turnout, but I think that this is a Trump plus 8 seat, and I think Republicans have gotten their chances of holding on to this seat have increased tremendously without Boebert being a liability in this district. So I think Frisch can still win this seat, but I think it's pretty clearly in the lean Republican column right now. Then Colorado's 8th district, Yadira Caraveo is the incumbent Democrat. She won against Barbara Kirkmeyer 2 years ago. she's running against Gabe Evans, I think, this time around. And she's, I think, pretty clearly favored in this Biden plus, it's a Biden plus 5 seat. So I think that now that she's the incumbent, she's going to, she's going to have a close race, but it's going to be a lot less competitive than it was, or it's going to be not as bitterly close as it was 2 years ago. But still, one to watch. Then we go down to New Mexico. The first district, Melanie Stansbury is going to win handily there. It's a Biden plus 14 seat, but she did a little bit worse 2 years ago. So, I wouldn't put this as quite as safe, but still very much, by probability safe, by margin likely. And then, or did I say margin by likely? Likely by margin. My mistake. I'm tired. New Mexico's second district, Gabe Vasquez unseated Yvette Harrell here. Harrell is making a comeback, but Vasquez is running in a Biden plus 5 seat, so I think he's going to expand his margin by a little bit. He won by like a little bit less than a point in 2022, but he's going to win by like maybe 2 this time, 2 points this time around. But one to watch, definitely one of the closest races in the country. Arizona's second district, I believe, is Eli Crane's district. He was one of the Republicans who voted to oust Kevin McCarthy, but he won his primary pretty handily, and I expect him to win pretty handily once again. To win in the general election once again. He defeated Tom O'Halloran, the incumbent Democrat, 2 years ago. This is like a Trump plus 8 seat, so he's not really, running in a super competitive seat, but some people rank it as safe Republican. I really wouldn't call it that. I would call it likely Republican pretty clearly. But then we have 2 very competitive seats here, Arizona's first and Arizona's second. The first, Democrats had a very competitive primary here to take on David Schweikert. Amish Shah won that Democratic primary, and originally I was going to give this seat to Schweikert, because of how divided Democrats were in this seat, and because I think a lot of people underestimate Schweikert as a candidate. I am a little guilty of that. I think we all have gotten kind of mixed up in the fact that his 2022 race was so close, which is true because Democrats didn't really spend a lot of money there, but at the same time, he's a decent candidate. But I think he loses this time. I think that the trends are really against him. I think that Shah is a pretty good candidate, is a pretty strong candidate, and I think that Democrats in Arizona are going to be energized by the abortion referendum, which is going to hurt Republicans up and down the ballot, which we saw in Michigan 2 years ago. And I think and the Ruben Gallego-Kari Lake race, I think, is going to benefit Democrats because Gallego is really pulling ahead there. So yeah, I think Shah wins and unseats Schweikert. Arizona's sixth, there wasn't really any primary drama here. Juan Ciscomani defeated a GOP-backed, or like a more conservative primary challenger. But Kirsten Engel running again in this seat. This is a very narrow Biden seat. It's like Biden plus 0.1. It's very close in 2020. Ciscomani, despite really not facing, Democrats really didn't try to hold on to this seat 2 years ago, but they came within 2 points of winning it, and that was while, Ciscomani, I will admit, did win while Mark Kelly won the seat by like 10 points in the Senate race. But I think that Ciscomani is honestly, I think he's in trouble this time around, and I think that he's going to lose this district very narrowly, but he's a good incumbent. I could very well see him holding on to this seat. But Engel's a very strong candidate, and now that this general election matchup was really not as in doubt as it was 2 years ago, this rematch I think will benefit Engel for several reasons, because she didn't have any primary drama, and Democrats are going to be spending here, and there's the abortion referendum and all that, all of those things that Democrats could hope for to flip that seat. So I'd view them as the favorites there. Then we go up to Montana's first. This district, I think, could be an upset for Democrats. John Tester could, while he is not favored to win re-election as of right now, is going to carry this district on the Senate level. and that could be enough to push Monica Tranel over the finish line against Ryan Zink. But I think Zink is going to win the seat. It's Trump plus 7. The fact that it was this close and that it was like a 3-point race for Zink in 2022 is beyond me, because there was no statewide race in Montana, not a Senate race, not a governor's race. And now the Democrats have Tester on the ballot. I think that could really push the seat towards Democrats. This could really be a majority maker for the Democrats, and one of the seats to really watch out for. But right now, I'm going to give it to Zink based on partisanship alone. Then we go to Nevada. Nevada's 4th and 1st are likely Democratic. Dina Titus won pretty handily 2 years ago. I expect her to win by a little bit more this time. Stephen Horsford won by less than 5 2 years ago. I think he's going to boost that margin up to 5 this time around. It's Biden plus 8, and his seat's Biden plus 8, and I think he's going to increase the margin a little bit more. I think Jackie Rosen is going to have a better result than Catherine Cortez Masto did 2 years ago in her Senate race. So I think that's also going to boost Democrats, and I do expect Harris to win the state at the presidential level. Then we go to the 3rd district. Susie Lee is the most in danger of these Free Democrats, but I'd still say that she's in a likely D race. She won by 4 2 years ago. I picked her to lose. So this was another seat that I was wrong about. And, I want to make it clear also that, like seats like Colorado 8, I was wrong on, but I didn't say it, when we were going through them. So, I actually did make a video where I talked about all the races I got wrong in 2022. So if you want to check that out, you can. Either way, Susie Lee, this is a Biden plus 6.5 district. I'm pretty confident in her ability to win again. And I don't think Republicans are contesting it as much as they were 2 years ago. California, we have a mother load of races here. There is a lot here, so I'm going to go through these a lot faster because this video is up to an hour long. But I guess that you can kind of excuse that with these House elections. Mike Levin is running in the 49th district. He won pretty comfortably in 2022 by a lot more than people thought. This is a Biden plus 11 seat. I think he's going to win again. Republicans, again, another seat that they kind of had their eyes on 2 years ago that slipped out of their view, that pretty clearly rejected their candidates, and so now they think that it's a little bit more of a reach, and so they're not going to invest in it as much anymore. But it's still a battleground seat, and if things get bad for Democrats come November, it could get really close, maybe even flip. California's 40th, Young Kim. This is a very narrow Biden seat. I think it will vote for Trump this time around because this area of the, a lot of Asian American voters in SoCal are trending rightward. But Young Kim is a very strong candidate. She won by like 14 points in 2022. I think she'll win by a little bit less this time because Democrats, I think, had a really bad result in California 2 years ago. That was partially because of Gavin Newsom, not doing well at the top of the ticket, and also because Hispanic turnout was very low, but we'll get to that in some of the other seats. Either way, we have Young Kim. I have Young Kim winning by like 10 points here in this seat. Then we go to California's 41st. Will Rollins is running against Republican incumbent Ken Calvert again. Rollins lost by less than 5 to Calvert 2 years ago, which was a pretty surprisingly close margin. But I think that Calvert's going to win very narrowly this time around. It's a Trump plus, or is it Biden? Is it Biden seat? No, it's a Trump plus 1 seat. I think Harris may win it at the presidential level, but it's a toss-up. And I think Calvert right now, just based on his incumbency and the fact that Republicans are going to make an effort to defend this seat more, to more effectively defend this seat, now that they know it's more in play, I think that's really going to help them out in this seat, or really help them hold on with Calvert. You can see now we have 15 toss-up seats left, Democrats, and Republicans are tied at 210 seats. California's 45th. Michelle Steele is going to win here. This seat was closer than expected 2 years ago, and Democrats did not have a good result in a lot of the California primaries this year. But I think that Steele is going to win again. Derek Tran is a good Democratic nominee. I think that with Biden dropping out, the seat has gotten a lot better for Democrats. I think Harris really could bring a lot of really could do very well in California. I mean, obviously she's going to do very well in California. It's a very safe blue state, but I think that she could, she won't do better than Biden. I expect the state to trend right, but she could do better compared to how Biden would have done in 24, if that makes sense. So California's 45th, Michelle Steele. This is a Biden +6 district. I expect it to be a lot closer this time around because, again, it's like Young Kim's seat. They're both very right trending, very have a very large Asian American population. So I think that's trending right. So I think it's going to be close. But I think it could vote for Steele by maybe 3 or 4 points instead of 5. Then California's 47th. Katie Porter retired from this district to run for Senate, and Scott Baugh, the GOP nominee, who took on Porter 2 years ago. And despite Porter raising a lot of money, she barely won this race. She won it by like 3 points, which was not much, which was a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be around that margin, but compared to some of the, to Mike Levin, who was perceived to be in a more competitive race, but actually wasn't. The fact that Porter really could not, really raised all that money and then only won by 3, despite getting a really good result in the primary, in the June primary that year. It was a sign that maybe the seat's going to be tougher for Democrats to hold on without her, but I think David Min is going to hold on to this seat. It's a Biden +10 seat. I think it's going to be a very close race. But, it could be a Republican pickup, very well could be, but it's going to be close. So, yeah, that's where I'd put it right now. California's 21st and 26th are both like Biden +20 seats, but the Democratic incumbents here are a little bit weaker than you might expect. I'd also put California's 9th as a Democratic-leaning seat, but it's a little bit closer than the 21st, and the 26th, it's like a Biden +12 seat. So actually, it's a lot closer compared to the 2020 results, but I think Josh Harder is a pretty clear favorite to win. California's 3rd. This is a new seat created by 2022 redistricting. Kevin Kiley won this seat in 22 by like 7 points. It's a Trump +2 district. It's left trending. I think it could vote, for Kamala Harris. I don't think it will, but Kiley, I think, is a pretty clear favorite at this point. Maybe he wins it by a little bit less than 5, but I think right now he's likely to have a similar performance to what he had 2 years ago. So yeah. Then we go down to California's 27th. Mike Garcia has won very, very he's won very strong victories in this seat. This is a Biden +13 district, I want to say. And it's very competitive, but it's a very strong Democratic seat, but it's very competitive this time around because Mike Garcia is no longer running against Christy Smith, who was a really bad Democratic nominee that ran against Garcia in 2020 and in 2022, and she lost by like 7 points last year. And so I think that because Democrats have a better candidate in George Whitesides, they're going to make this district closer, especially because it's a presidential year. But I still think Garcia is just a phenomenal candidate, and I really think that he's going to hold on here and keep the seat from flipping Democratic. Then you go to these 2 seats in the Sun Valley, or the San Juan Valley. I almost forgot what this area of California was like. You have John Duarte here in the 13th district, barely won this Biden +11 seat 2 years ago. But the fact that he did win it was pretty impressive. I didn't expect him to win it. I expected Adam Gray, the Democrat, to win it. But either way, it's a Duarte versus Gray rematch this time around. And Duarte got pretty good results in the March primary this year, which, the California primary results tend to be a little bit more Republican than the general election. So he had a better result there, but also low turnout in the primary might be why Gray is not doing as well. I think Gray is going to narrowly flip this seat, but I could, honestly, I wasn't as sure. I'm not as sure about it flipping blue as I was, a little while ago. I think the odds that Duarte holds on have increased. I think he's a good candidate, and Gray is decent, but he's also running against, he has to really get Hispanic turnout up in this seat, which I don't think will be as hard as it was 2 years ago because there's a presidential year. But I think right now he's the favorite. Just it's a very close race, so I would not be surprised if Duarte won another term. And David Valadao in California's 22nd. This is another very close race, another rematch between him and former state assemblyman Rudy Salas. Valadao won by like 3 points here in 2022. This was another race where I was wrong. I expected Valadao to lose, but he in fact won. I think he's going to win again. This is a Biden plus 13 seat. But Valadao has, he voted to impeach Trump in 2021, and he's one of the more moderate Republicans in the House. I think that he's, made a brand for himself in the state, and I don't think that he's going to lose. He lost in 2018, and then then he came back in 2020 and won, and then got reelected 2 years ago. It's possible the Democrats oust him, but the fact that they had to stop Melissa Hurtado, I think, from making it onto the ballot instead of Rudy Salas. The fact that Democrats had that intra-party fight, which was more dramatic than Republicans fighting to keep Valadao in the general. I think that speaks a lot to weakening the party. So I think Valadao right now is a narrow favorite for re-election, but he could lose. Then we go to Oregon. We have the 4th and the 6th districts likely Democratic. And then we have, Andre Salinas in the 6th was had a pretty close race in 2022, but I think it'll be more solidly in her favor this time around. It's like a Biden plus 13 seat, I want to say. Maybe it's not that much. Let me see. It might be like Biden plus 7 or something. It's Biden plus 13. No, I was right. So I think that she's going to win. Mike Erickson, the Republican nominee 2 years ago, is running again. And he's going to put up a fight. This could be a lean seat, but I think it's going to vote for Salinas by maybe 5 to 6 points. But another thing you have to remember is Oregon had a much redder result 2 years ago because of the Republican primary, or because of the strong Republican performance on, at the top of the ticket with the governor's race being so close for Democrats. Then we go to the 5th district, which is the really competitive one for Democrats in this seat. Janelle Bynum is the Democratic nominee to take on Lori Chavez de Remer, who defeated what's her name? I'm blanking on the candidate's name. Jamie McLeod Skinner was the name of the other Democrat who won, or who defeated, or who won the Democratic primary 2 years ago and then lost to Chavez de Remer. And so McLeod Skinner ran against Bynum in the Democratic primary this year, but got destroyed. And so I think that's a good sign for Democrats that they were able, it's good news for Democrats that they were able to block McLeod Skinner from forcing a rematch. And so I think they have a more electable candidate. And Bynum actually did defeat Chavez de Remer in a state House or state Senate race in 2018 and 2016. So she has a history of defeating Chavez de Remer, and now they're fighting for this House seat. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think that Bynum right now is the favorite. This is like a Biden plus 9 seat or 8 seat. So I think it narrowly votes Democratic, especially because now you don't have a bad Democratic nominee. You in fact have one that's beaten this exact same candidate before. Then we go up to Washington, and as you can see, Democrats have reached a magic number of 218, so they will win back House control. Washington's 8th, Kim Schreier, won her primary, cruised to re-election, or won in 2022 pretty handily against her Republican opponent. This is like a Biden plus 7 seat, and she won by about that amount. It was, again, another instance where Democrats overperformed. And this time around, her Republican opponent doesn't have a lot of money. Republicans really aren't targeting it. They're more focused on this 3rd district, which is where the main attention of Washington is going to be. On the national stage, Marie Gluesom Perez, who won this seat 2 years ago, is running for re-election against Republican Joe Kent, who had, faced McLeod Skinner, or oh my God, what's going on with my brain? So Joe Kent 2 years ago lost to Gluesom Perez, and and Kent in the primary defeated Republican Representative Jamie Herrera Butler 2 years ago, and Butler had voted to impeach Trump in his second impeachment trial. So that had made her a vulnerable candidate, and because Republicans took out Herrera Butler, who was very popular in this district, and put in Kent, Gluesom Perez was able to win back a lot of those former Republican-leaning voters and win this seat. And I think that she's going to do it again. I think Kent is a really weak candidate for this district, and I think that Perez has done a good job, or Gluesom Perez has done a very good job of making herself a moderate. She's received criticism from Republicans, of course, but she's one of the most moderate Democrats in the House, and I think that that's really going to help her. It's a Trump plus 5 seat. It's very suburban. It likes people like Marie Gluesom Perez, who really speak to working class voters in the district. She's a small business owner, so I think she's going to win that. And then finally, we have Alaska. Mary Peltola is the Democratic incumbent here. She won a special election 2 years ago to replace the late Representative Don Young. May he rest in peace. She won a full term against Sarah Palin in November. Peltola won a full term in November of 2022. And the primary for Alaska, I believe, is tomorrow. And she's going to face, I think, the lieutenant governor of the state, who on paper is a better candidate than someone like Palin, who's very controversial. But Peltola, very strong candidate. I think that she's going to win. She's another bipartisan Democrat who has received a lot of Republican support, and I believe Alaska is a red trending or left trending state. It voted for Trump by 10 points in 2020, but that was far down from the margins Bush and McCain and Romney had in this seat, but in this state. And so Alaska, I think, is going to reelect Mary Peltola. Democrats have no chance of winning it on the presidential level, and I have very little. I do not expect Kamala Harris to campaign here for Peltola because that will just nationalize the race. But I think Peltola knows what she's doing. She's a very strong candidate, and I think that she's going to win another term. It's going to be a little bit closer this time, but I think she wins by 4 to 5 points. So Democrats, as you can see, based on my prediction, will win back House control. 222. They win 221 seats. Republicans win 214. It's a very close race, but if this map comes true, it would be a decent majority for Democrats. They would get a similar map to what they had in 2020. Obviously, with the districts themselves have changed in terms of that partisan makeup, but the overall number is very much similar. And so let me know what you guys think about this. This is my prediction for the House elections as of August 2024. Sorry that this video took so long, but I think with a House election video, it can only be long. So let me know what you guys think. Do you agree the Democrats are going to take back the House? Do you think Republicans are going to hold it? Do you agree with me on any of these particular seats or disagree with me on any of them? Let me know. I want to hear your thoughts. So if you like the video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out some of my other 2024 election related content. And thank you guys so much for watching this very long video, and I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things politics. See ya.